Welcome to Teaching Orchestra. In this video, we're going to be going over the Bowings in Labyrinth. And I want to start off by disaggregating Bowings from rhythm, okay? Conceptual rhythm is important. It's a part of the puzzle, but it's not the whole puzzle. Just because a student can count and clap a rhythm doesn't mean they're going to be able to play it with the bow. Also, this video is not about style. That's going to be a video for next week. This video is just about the nuance in decision making to strategically plan how we're going to use the bow and how we're going to think about three things. Number one, bow placement. Number two, bowing lane. And number three, bow direction. The other elements of bowing we're going to cover next week. So let's start off with the first dimension, bow placement. In Labyrinth, your students are going to need to be comfortable in all parts of their bow. And I can tell you as a consultant and a clinician, we're going to have to teach them how to play everywhere. You need to teach your high strings how to play in the lower half of the bow, and you need to teach your low strings how to play in the upper half of the bow. No, we don't need to play in the upper half of the bow, your cellist and bass players will say. Oh, you don't, do you? Well, how are you going to play measure 42? How are you going to play measure 42 in the lower half of the bow? Terribly. That's how. So let's start at measure 39 and imagine what would happen if your cellist played in the lower half of the bow. And I picked 39 because it's approached by a rest. So here they can put their bow anywhere they want fairly easily. You just bow it as it's written, down, up, 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 down, up. Uh-oh, that's a fail. They're not going to have enough bow to play that dotted half note if they start at the frog. In the Teaching Companion, available on teachingorchestra.com, I have 9 rhythm exercises, and when you go through them, remember what I said just a minute ago. It's not just the rhythm, it's the bowings. Have your students isolate each one of these rhythms and have them try in the middle of the bow and in the upper half of the bow and the lower half of the bow. If they can't do it on an open D, they probably can't do it in Labyrinth, okay? So have your orchestra play rhythm number 9 and try to get them all to play in the upper half of the bow for this. Play it about 4 times in a row, just have them repeat it on an open D. If they start gravitating back towards the frog, especially in your low strings, you've got a problem, okay? So we're gonna need to add some accountability. We're going to need to use some of that peer-to-peer coaching that I talked about in Season 5, Episode 9, right? In the Restorative Practices video, we split them up and we have them watch each other by stand partners so that they can play it 4 times in a row and see if they're able to stay in the upper half rather than going back to the frog. If they keep going back to the frog, they have a hole in their technique, and their stand partners can help hold them accountable, okay? So we use this as a rehearsal tool to help create some awareness because some students have no idea that they're in the lower half of the bow the whole time or in the upper strings the upper half of the whole time. So we need to do some troubleshooting if we still have students that can't seem to stay in the part of the bow they're trying to stay in. So number one, let's try to identify the problem, okay? Why do you think the low strings are going back towards the frog all the time? Is it just habit or is it something deeper? And I think it's something deeper, and I want you to think about this too. And I'm going to pose the question to you. What do you think the problem is? So pause the video and think about it before I give you the answer that I think. Okay, you ready for my answer? And look, I might be wrong. I'm not clairvoyant, but I'm also not probably wrong. And so here's what I suspect the problem is. It's the bow hand. So let me get a cello bow from the back. If your thumb is like this, you can't put weight down on your string because the thumb is pushing up the bow. So what do your students need to do to compensate? Well, they push down with the pinky, right? You ever see this kind of stuff, cello pinkies that look like this? That's why they're compensating for the thumb. So if I push down with my pinky, what happens to the tip of the bow? It goes up. And then if my thumb pushes the bow up, everything's pushing the way up and off the string in the upper half. So they sound really bad in the upper half, so they tend to avoid this area, and they also don't have really good flexibility in their hand to manipulate the bow well for the eighth notes in the upper half. So they just avoid it, and they end up playing everything down at the frog like this with crazy pinky and straight thumb. Going back to 39, where are the notes that we're playing? On the G string? Are you serious? The G string? You think we might need some weight to sound good on the G string? Yeah, I think so. Now, if you've got students playing with poor bow hands and not using enough weight on the G string, what is the probability that they're going to make quality tone? I think like 0%, like no chance. Now, to give this some perspective, you know how like people make appointments with you and they bring in like an old violin that they found like at a pawn shop or an estate sale or in somebody's attic, and they think it's a Stradivarius? There's a greater chance of that thing actually being a legit Stradivarius than your cellist making a good tone on the G string if they don't use weight, right? So you got to fix those bow hands, okay? Otherwise, they got no chance. They've been playing with bad bow hands for a long time, and it's going to take some patience to get them going so they can play Labyrinth and make it sound good. And what's the fastest way to do this? Bow push-ups all day, every day. Now, you can use the bow, or I like to have them use a pencil, especially at first. It's a little trick because then they have a pencil out and they can write stuff down. But you get a good bow hold and you push the bow up and down. Okay, you can do it horizontally. You can do it vertically with a pencil, with a bow, all day, every day. And if your thumb is straight and your pinky is straight, you can't really do a bow push-up because the thumb won't bend to make the bow come up. So in order to do this exercise, you have to fix your technique. So there's some accountability built into the exercise. The goal is to get a bow hold so that they can relax, so that the thumb and the pinky are relaxed enough to move the bow up and down. And then once they start applying torque to the bow, they'll get some weight in the upper half. All right? Now don't start with this, but the next tip will definitely help too. And it will definitely help to fix the problem. Fix the bow hold first, but the next tip is to get the contact point closer to your body, okay? If you're playing way out here and it's away from your body, you don't have as good of leverage as if you lean to your left and put your center of mass closer to the contact point where the bow contacts the string. Now, bow hold first, fix that because that's going to help them with everything else. But if you learn how to get them to manage their weight, the weight of their body and the weight of the arm, leaning to your left when they're in the upper half, that's going to help them get better tone, especially on the lower strings. The next issue is going to be with your upper strings, the shoulder instruments, not being able to play at the frog. And guess what their problems likely are? That's right, probably the bow hand as well. So while you're working on bow push-ups with the lower strings, make sure that you're also working on the push-ups with your upper strings, and that way they can have the flexibility to play in the lower half of the bow. Then we can go back to rhythm exercise number 9, and we can make sure that everybody can play in all parts of the bow. Once they get really good at doing this on a D string, well, we can make it a little more complicated. We can try it on other strings. We can try it by adding finger patterns, so not just playing open D, but playing all the patterns that we have in Labyrinth. We can take this exercise and go back to the beginning of the teaching companion and inserting those rhythms instead of whole notes into these finger pattern exercises. When we start to complicate things, if stuff starts to go wrong and they can't keep a good bow hand, or if they can't manage their bow placement, we need to do more bow push-ups, all right? The moment it starts breaking down, we got to stop them so that we can correct that habit, get them to do more bow push-ups so that they can fix their technique. All right, let's address the elephant in the labyrinth. You see what I did there?
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
The elephant in the labyrinth are the double down bows, the triple down bows, bowtacular. When your students are playing these double or triple down bows, can they set the bow? Can they re-grip the string? Or is their bow just smashing into the string like an interstellar collision? Have them practice rhythm exercise number 8 from the teaching companion slowly, because it's a 3-step process, not a 1-step process of just slamming the bow into the string. You have to set, grip, play, set, grip, play. In rhythm exercise number 8, heaven help you if you can't set, grip, play before each one of these down bows. Oh my goodness, why can't children set their bows? Well, I guess I would be out of a job if they did. If all of my students could immediately set their bows and hold their bows correctly, I would 100% be out of a job. All right, this video is getting kind of long, so the last thing I want to touch on in this video is rhythm exercise number 6 from the teacher companion, which is way harder than rhythm exercise number 5, because in rhythm exercise number 6, the quarter note falls on beat 1, and in exercise number 5, the quarter note is on beat 4. Why is that harder? Because the accents in Labyrinth are on beat 4. So if they play heavy up bows, then it's not going to be a problem. But if they play heavy down bows here in 6, it's going to be a huge problem because it won't line up rhythmically. So pay attention to rhythm number 6 and have them work on that, have them repeat it again and again, and make sure they can use light bows on the quarter notes and recover. Okay, that's enough for today, and thank you for watching. In the next video, I'm going to be going over the left hand, so I hope to see you then.